changing lives.
Hello, cherished viewers. Good evening and welcome to another episode of The Law Chambers, where legal matters are discussed from a Christian perspective. I'm your host, Stella Adwa-Denchi, sitting in for Anita Delight, who is behind the scenes today. And as usual, we're having a fun time, although it will be educative as well. Last week, we started something and we'll be continuing today. So as usual, we are live on the various social media handles. We are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube, and we would like you to send in your questions, your contributions as we go along, and we'll handle them. You could send your questions to the number 023-537-1287. I take the numbers again. 023-537-1287. Now, last week we handled the topic inheritance under SSNIT and other investment portfolios. We had certain resource persons here with us who took us through a few things. And so before we begin, I would just go over and introduce them as well, and then we would get the program started. The first we have is, I'll start from the far end, Auntie Rosina.
Hello.
Auntie Rosina is with the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, and she's the head of education and sensitization on pensions and retirement planning. You're welcome, Auntie Rosina.
Thank you, Anna.
And the next we have Mr. Isaac Akrofi. Mr. Isaac Ewa, sorry. Mr. Ewa is with the Volta River Authority, and he's the head of Provident Fund, the Provident Fund and Pension Secretariat. You're welcome, Mr. Ewa. Next, we have Ms. Jemima Ofori. Ms. Jemima is with SSNIT, and she's a Deputy Manager, Corporate Affairs of the Accra South area. You're welcome, Jemima.
Thank you.
All right, so last week we started something, and I'll start with Jemima. Yes, we had a really interesting time, and I wanted to just recap just a little of what we did last week, and then we move on.
Okay, so good evening to your cherished viewers and listeners all over. With SSNIT, what we touched on was that we need all of us to understand that the scheme administers the first tier out of the 3-tier Ghana's basic schemes in the country. So we are responsible for paying pensions, monthly pensions, when you retire or when you are out of service, or a contingency like permanent illness or injury happens to you, and a part of you lose your income. SSNIT comes in to replace a part of it in these contingencies. So basically that's what SSNIT is there for. And again, we also touched on the fact that people should only not concentrate on the fact that they'll be waiting for their retirement packages. So they neglect the portions where they need to make updates on their nominee information or records with us, which is like doing a will in a general sense, making sure that you update as and when you think you need to do the update, because the law enjoins us to do so at least once every 5 years. That means that whenever you feel you want to update this record, you need to do so, because in the event of your death as a member or a contributor or pensioner, SSNIT cannot take any contributions that belongs to you. So you obviously have to transfer the monies to people you have nominated prior to your death. So this is just a general overview of what's with it.
Okay, before I go back to Mr. Ewa, you mentioned last week that Ghanaians non-Ghanaians working outside the country could not contribute.
No.
Could you throw more light on that? Because I think it wasn't clear before we ended.
Yeah, the Ghanaians outside the country could not contribute because it's also stated in the law. The law says workers in Ghana. The law didn't say Ghanaian workers. It said workers in Ghana. So you have to be a worker in Ghana. Let us know the kind of income generating activity that you are into and then we know that if you are working for employer, there's an employer-employee relationship. If you are self-employed or you want to contribute voluntarily, you declare an income or salary for yourself. So you can't sit in somewhere like Switzerland or Canada and say that you want to contribute to SSNIT.
And
so
that is why foreigners in Ghana can contribute.
Because once he's a foreigner, he's been paid for. There are tax returns paid on his behalf. He's taking salary from a Ghanaian institutional organization. So such people, because they are not Ghanaians, when it is their time to permanently immigrate out of Ghana, what we do is we give them a package that is called immigration lump sum. So it's a one-time payment given to them, and then they just go back to their home country. Yes, so immigrants enjoy some form of pension in Ghana because they work here. But a Ghanaian working outside Ghana cannot contribute to the scheme.
I seem to spend a lot of time on you, but then, you know, in the affidavit, usually it's mentioned that the person declares that he's not going to come back to Ghana again. The few drafts I have seen, the person declares that's what allows him to be able to take everything away.
Yes.
Now what happens if the person decides to come back?
If you decide to come back, then we are sure that you are not going to engage in any form of employment, because the embassy that your country is representing should also give something like a note on an authority indicating that you are immigrating permanently and you are not coming back. If you come back and there's a worker-employee relationship and it's established that payments were made for you and SSNIT contributions came, why not? But if you have exhausted the period of your working life, then even if you come back, there will be zero
all right.
given to you. Yes.
All right, Mr. Ewa.
Yes, I can.
Yes. Last week, give us just a summary of what you touched on.
So thank you for the opportunity, and let me use this opportunity to say a good evening to your cherished viewers and all those streaming with us live. Yes, so last week we touched on many things, as has already been said by Jemima. But key amongst them, we said, do not leave your retirement planning in the hands of any third party. Take personal responsibility for your retirement planning, and by so doing, you make sure that you actually invest or have some alternative arrangement in addition to SSNIT, right? So that by the time you are due for retirement, you are not going to be so much worried as to what is going to happen, because we did mention that in retirement, liquidity is key, and liquidity is cash. And so if you have alternative arrangement, it makes you better off. And we also said that take personal responsibility and take your pension planning into your own hand, like your destiny, so that at least you plan towards that and not make your children your retirement plan.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Ewa. Auntie Rosina.
Hello, Gloria. Yes, so Gloria, I think last week was actually an eye-opener to many of our listeners, our viewers, because I made them understand that the NPRA, or the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, is the one that supersedes to all pensions in Ghana, especially the 3-tier pension scheme, which also incorporates the informal sector workers. So pensions are just not for people in the formal sector, but also people doing their own thing. Anyone in Ghana as a Ghanaian and you are working, I mean, you can also be entitled to pension. You can contribute so that whenever you go on retirement, you can also have pensions. And let me also assure my viewers that touching or adding to what Jemima said concerning those working outside and want to have pensions in Ghana, yes, it is something that is being considered, because I mentioned that the NPR has a lot of functions, including advising on policies concerning pensions. So therefore, something like diaspora pension it's one thing that is on the table that is seriously being considered by government and NPRA, and So therefore, they should rest assured that very soon, I mean, this will come to materialize, and those of them outside Ghana, you know, wherever you are across the globe, you can also contribute towards pension in your home country.
Okay, so Auntie, because you mentioned the informal sector, I want to throw this question to you. Usually questions that come up are for the formal sector workers, you're able to peg a particular percentage of your income, and so that's because the law prescribes certain percentages. Exactly. But if I work in the informal sector, this week I make 100 cedis, next week I'm making 20 cedis, the following I'm making about 300. How should my contributions be made? Will SSNIT still require that I give a particular percentage, whereas I may not get that amount in that week or in that month to be able to contribute?
Thank you very much. So as I've already mentioned, the 3-tier pension scheme has a 3rd tier as the one for the informal sector. So the first tier being managed by SSNIT, and the 2nd tier which are managed by trustees that privately manage. The same 3rd tier also has private managers, like we mentioned under the 2nd tier. So the 3rd tier is actually called the voluntary personal and group pension schemes. So, I mean, since it's voluntary, nobody knows how much one makes at the end of the day. Just like you mentioned, sometimes your money fluctuates and all that. But because it's voluntary, I mean, it is actually not a problem at all. What happens is that whatever you make at a particular month and you want to contribute, sometimes it's even taken daily, weekly, or, you know, however you want it paid, because the word here is voluntary. And nobody can determine, I mean, whatever you make at the end of the day. So if you want to contribute, I mean, whatever you get probably at the end of the month, like you asked, you can contribute into it. If the next month you don't even make any profit, so therefore you cannot pay, I mean, it's your own beef, okay? It will not go against you, but then you should make a conscious effort to kind of, at the time that you get it, you should contribute. So it is not kind of mandatory scheme. It's a voluntary scheme. So however you want it paid, it's up to you. And let me add that, having said that, it is a defined contributory scheme. SSNIT scheme is a defined benefit, and that one, they are put into formula to be able to determine so you have to meet some requirements. But the 2nd and 3rd tiers are defined contributory schemes. What this basically means is that your monies are going to be invested on your behalf, and the interest, so that comes, you get it, it accrues and you get it. So it's garbage in, garbage out. Whatever you put in is what you get. So nobody forces you to do that. It's not a mandatory scheme, but you should make a conscious effort to contribute so that tomorrow it will be better for you.
Okay, so do these people have to walk to the SSNIT office or to the banks at the end of every month to make the payments, or does someone come around?
Okay, with SSNIT, I'd like to add something to what Auntie Rosina said. You know, whenever you mention pension, what comes to people's mind is SSNIT, which is why people even think that SSNIT's scheme is only for formal sector or government workers. But once the law says workers in Ghana, if you have your own online shop, you are a worker in Ghana. If you sell banku and okra stew along the streets, you are also a self-employed person, you understand? So that is why we are saying that even though your income or your earnings may not be regular, you would want to tell us that, oh, I want to enjoy every benefit that the formal sector will do, for example, old age, as you are doing for the 3rd year as well. When I go off tomorrow, I may want my family to also enjoy, get some survivors lump sum. When I fall sick, I have heard that SSNIT provides something called SSNIT invalidity pension. So you want to do that, as my brother said, and then be beefing up your investments across, because what Auntie Regina said for the 3rd year, yes, if you don't do it, no one does anything to you. It's the same with the 1st year when you are a self-employed person with SSNIT. Because it's not mandatory, there are no penalties accrued and all that, people tend to pull back a little. Yeah. But interestingly, in the informal sector, we have 10.2 million workers in Ghana now. Wow. So they are forming even majority of the people in the country. Yes.
Right.
Can I add a little to it? Sanya ye kano enuanom ne womu ne se ne ye friend ne se 30 no e wo homa ye ne a ye yankase adwuma se pure water na woton se benku bi na wokaton se wo ye taxi driver na trotro driver ana se adwuma bia a wo ye a wo a ne wo boss chese wo a na wokofa onioma na woton no wo nso so akwanya ba ma se wo nso so ubetimi enya ne a ye frɛ ne pension ni bi pension a ye sika wokɔ ahogie mu a ubenya de ahwɛ wo ho na ye ka ne saa no na enanwumre yi ye pese ye hwɛ mo nkran sɛ 3-tier pension scheme no e ba sɛ ye nyinara wo ya aban adwuma wo ya busumi adwuma wo nso so ubenya bi e de ahwɛ wo ho wo da achinti sɛ o nkofie enkodi udokono kwa enu nti na wo se osiesie wo ho ma wo da achi na ye ka se 30 no eye voluntary no ni aye pa kya ne se enya de a eye ohye anase wantua ne acho atum anase bibisa da bi entesa efi wa wo pem broni ne se voluntary na che se wa wo pem na efi se wo de ye e de aboa wankasa wo ho e ma wo da achi enti ye ka ne sa no na se ese ne awusika no ebe bia no eno asa obebo wo ho moden na won susu wachie bi nkakrakra ama wo daache enti se busumi ekoyie ma na wutumi tue bia asidanka erade na se busumi bi so na se wentimi enye bia eno nkyere se tekoda emomu no bo moden se nia ewo ye nim no na do osunti no ebi sai ba obenya na wo de ayeden e de etuatua enkase enmenye bi entua abusumi we ntimi de emegya ida bi echina ebeye yi na chese ugusu etua edema ho.
Okay. Thank you, Auntie Rosina. So, Mr. Ma, we've been talking about SSNIT. I want to know, are there other alternative investment schemes that we could look at instead of just relying on our SSNIT and our Tier 2 and then Tier 3 pension schemes?
Yes, okay, thank you. Thank you for your question. Let me put it this way so I can explain. So I'm contributing to SSNIT. Is there a need for me to have other alternative plans, saving plans or investment plans? I would say a big yes. A big yes in the sense that, you see, when we talk about retirement is basically about liquidity. And when we say liquidity, it's about cash. So just imagine somebody who has been in formal employment or actively, that is, the person is not in formal employment, somebody who is actively working on his or her own for 10 years, 20, 30 years, some beyond 30 years, to suddenly become old or retire. Now, the major source of income will definitely curtail, right? And so then the only alternate income that you may have is SSNIT. But we also know that as you age, like a car, when you buy a fresh car, I mean, how often do you go to the mechanic shop? You don't go there frequently. But as we are aging, our body also ages. And your needs may increase. Meanwhile, your income is either static or even reducing. So it tells you that you need more alternate income. Now, research indicates that for you to be sustainable, financially or economically sustainable in retirement, you need at least 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income.
Wow.
What it means is that, let me just simplify. So if I'm on, say, a salary of 1,000 Ghana every month, now research indicates that for me to be comfortable in retirement financially, I will need about 700 to 800 cedis to live on. What it means is that my lifestyle is used to a lifestyle of 1,000 Ghana. So if I should go on retirement and then I go only focusing on SSNIT with a high expectation, and my expectation is not met, that in itself is enough to cause me a sickness and early death. So on that score, what it means is that you need to have alternative arrangement. Again, it's interesting that Auntie Rosina mentioned the Tier 1 scheme is what we call a defined benefit scheme. And when you say defined benefit scheme, it simply means that whatever entitlement that is to us or that we stand to benefit is defined by formula and law, backed by law. So when you get the variables, you put the variables in, the outcome is what you are entitled to. And it is interesting to know that even some people do not even meet the minimum requirement, and SSNIT will have to top it up. So there are some people, when you put all their contributions they've done into the formula, what comes out, SSNIT will say, oh, this one is below the minimum wage requirement. So SSNIT tops it up for you. And that is the essence of an insurance scheme. That's why it's a social security and insurance scheme. Now, the Tier 1 scheme can give you a maximum of 60% pension right. The 60% pension right simply means that the income or the salary you were on, a component of it, 60% is maximum what you are entitled to. Now, that 60% is equivalent to 35 years of contribution, not work.
Yes.
Somebody may work for 35 years, but may not be contributing for 35 years. So contributory 35 years. Yeah. How many of us here will work for 35 years or contribute for 35 years? So in the first place, you are working below the scheme. So as I sit here, I am aware, and I know that I will not work to 35 years. So I can't get 60% of my basic salary. So at least that awareness informs me to have alternative plans, personal pension plans. Tier 3, Auntie Rosina has spoken about it. So it is important. Now, let me just add this to explain further. Over the past week, a lot of questions and concerns that has influenced my idea. And it has to do with SSNIT. People have realized from the interaction I've had with a lot of people and from what I do that most of us do not really take time to understand what the Tier 1 scheme is all about. Because from hindsight, it's the most transparent. As we are talking, we said it's a defined benefit scheme, which is formula. And formula is based on the principles of mathematics, addition, subtraction, and division. And it is universal. So 2 plus 2 in the office, in this studio, is the same 2 plus 2 in SSNIT office. So on that basis, it tells you that once you are aware of what is in it for you, it manages your expectation. And these are 2 things I pick. People are not aware in terms of lack of education, and people also have so much expectation, which is based on the fact that they are not aware. Just to explain further, or just use this example, I was talking to somebody. Let's assume that somebody is on, let's say, a salary of 50,000 cedis. Now, as we speak, I'm talking about the awareness and the management of expectation. As we speak, as part of the formula, contributing salary is capped, right, at 35,000. That's effective, I think, April 2021. So what it means is that even though I am earning a salary of 50,000, in fact, this is just for the records, maybe my family head will be watching, I am not on a salary of 50,000, so demands will be coming. No, just imagine I am on, let's say, a salary of 50,000. If I am not aware and I've not bothered to even find out, in my mind, I think that it's 50,000 that I'm paying contribution on to SSNIT. By natural fact, I'm only paying contribution on 35,000. That's about 4,725 cedis.
Yeah, 4,000
instead of 6,750. Right. So if I go on retirement, I am in my mind, oh, I was paying on 50,000, so I'm expecting SSNIT to give me something huge. Right. Now, when the calculation comes and I don't get that, then you start criticizing, oh, they are cheats. No, you have not bothered to actually educate yourself. Now, these 35,000 we are talking about, and will be, I'm sure maybe an opportunity will come for us to talk about the formula. So maybe when we get there, we'll explain.
All right.
So it's about awareness and management of our expectation.
All right.
Well, that's a good PR for SSNIT.
You have to.
So yes, so we're coming to our contributions. What does SSNIT take? Not only SSNIT, but what percentage and what kind of income is the pension taken from? So I want us to look at bonuses. Some people get bonuses. They get a 13th month salary at the end of the year. They may get certain allowances aside their basic salary. And so on what does the law take those pension contributions from?
Okay, so the law says it has to be from your basic pay.
All right.
SSNIT contributions are paid from your basic pay.
So please explain the basic
so the
relation to all these other allowances.
Yes, so the basic pay in that if you are getting certain allowances, then we employ you to engage your employer, whoever recruited you in the company organization, to make sure that whichever means possible, these allowances are consolidated, because the SSNIT scheme or the law that regulates us do not allow SSNIT contributions to be paid on allowances. It's from the basic pay. So let me say this about a doctor who met our Director General about 2 months ago.
Okay.
He went on pension and he was very upset. Yes. So
the contributions
yes,
he was getting.
as my brother mentioned, so he petitioned and then insisted that he wanted to see a medical doctor. Insisted to see the Director General. They met. You have cheated me. I was being paid 5,000 a month and all that. So he took his time and explained, and I said, okay, so let's see the breakdown of the percentage of the contribution that were coming to us from discussions and deliberations. Percentage of the contribution was coming on 2,000. And allowance was 3,000.
Wow.
So in his mind, he was taking 5,000, just as he mentioned. Oh, but he didn't tell me. I didn't know this. Oh, then I did myself a great harm. I should have ensured that my employers, So once it's basic pay, and you even feel as an employee that your salary is being underdeclared, it is your right or responsibility to even talk to us. Yes. Unfortunately, good news does not sell. It's the bad ones that sell. But we've had to prosecute employers, take them to courts, publish their names in the dailies because they are refusing to do their bits as employers, trying not to pay for their employees, but paying for themselves. So if you are an employee and you feel that your employer is underdeclaring your salary for yourself or others that you are working with, you have to blow the whistle. Just come to SSNIT and then report. We know how to deal with that. Thank you.
All right. So, nyaya kan say SSNIT no, any tier 2 no, ye fawo bibia ye friend o basic salary so. Just a basic salary no, enya allowances and I say sika edema o say bia o yama o company car yama o sika say for sikator football egu kanim ye de count salary no at the end of the month yema o bia edan yema o rent allowance but still in account salary no ho eba bosomi na wie ya nya anti Jemima e kan say SSNIT no buy ebe he say o salary 200 cedis na ye tua no 100 ewom e na ye basic salary inti say ye yi contributions if you sika ne so e de ato ho ama oda achi a ye be ye fi 100 so enye 200 no inti ebe wi a se no na contribution na ewa wa adwen mu se ubenya no na enye sa na onya inti na se na Mr. Ewa kan no ewa se oye nhihye ye ka SSNIT ene tier 2 ne ho ansa na we jai ejumaye. Let's put it that way. All right, so we move on. Auntie Jemima, help us calculate give us like a very practical example of how, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
My PR.
You really have to pay him at the end. Okay.
So typically, let's say as we speak, I mentioned 60% pension, right?
Yes.
So there are some conditions that you have to meet for you to assess the pension. And we talk about age, we talk about the minimum number of years you have to do, and the maximum is also capped at 35 years, right? And then of course your basic salary. So typically, let's say that somebody who has contributed for 35 years, that is an equivalent of our 420
months.
Right. Now, the formula is such that in deriving the pension right, you are rewarded on the number of months you contribute. So for the first 15 years, which is the minimum requirement, which is equivalent to 180 months, you are rewarded 2.5% on every year's contribution. So if you multiply 2.5 by 15 years, that gives you 37.5%. What it means is that you are left with about 22.5 to attain. Yeah. So the extra,
because
the extra 20 years, the extra 20 years, you are also rewarded 1.125% on each year contribution. If it is in months, you divide by 12. You get 0.094. Yeah, 9375 if you approximate 94. Yes. Now that will also give you the 22.5. So if you add the 22.5 to the 37.5, that gives the maximum cap of what? 60. But like I said, how many of us will contribute for 35 years to be able to attain that, right? So I always tell people that the formula reward system is in two folds. One, your salary, basic salary, and then the number of months you contribute. So you are rewarded on the number of months you are contributing and then your basic salary. And once these things are key and you pay particular attention to it, you'll not be found wanting. And it's all about awareness. You need to be aware. If you know that this is what is innate for me, it helps you rather put in place other complementary plans so that at least you'll not be found wanting.
Okay.
Am I allowed to clap for him?
Yes. Okay, I think this is a good time to go on a short commercial break. We'll be back shortly.
For one night only, the city will converge at the National Theatre as United in Praise presents the A Cappella Festival.
Why don't you get up and give the Lord a shout of praise?
Yes, race for a swell musical experience on Saturday, December 31st, as Ghana's hottest a cappella groups usher us into 2023 in style. On stage, Black Cappella, The Manifest, Vocal Part, Note 6, K3M, New Era, Soul Street, with a special appearance from Pestak Praise, Gifty Dia, Mark Enim, and Perez Music. Tickets are selling now for a cool 70 Ghana cedis single and 150 Ghana cedis VIP. Or you can go for 300 Ghana cedis for the family of 5. Dial star 928 star 529 hash to purchase your tickets. Get ready for the A Cappella Festival live at the National Theatre. Don't forget, the date is Saturday, 31st December. The gate opens at 5 p.m. sharp.
The A Cappella Festival is proudly endorsed by Beyond the Return and supported by Charterhouse, Events Dome, Midima Foheba Clinic, Meridian Ghana Conference.
This event is powered by United in Praise.
Nia onyankopon hwehwa ne se onipa bia bedi yie e wasase so. Eno ti adwuma bia wo ye no, wo hia ho nindie ene nkyerɛkyerɛ papa. Mpanifo se sanwa beba kontomre enkwan ani a na eginemu nam so. Eno nti na Hope Channel edi dwumadi a ye frɛ ne se Business Forum abrewo. Ya wada nwumre no nwotwe bia me kyerɛ 8 p.m. Shia me na nakwa misika. Me mpanimfo a wa ben no wadɔ sukɔ e wo sikasɛmu. Adwadie mu ene enwuma mu besi nkonya ne ama nkyerɛkyerɛ papa a ɛbɛboa wo na nso watimi atumpɔn. Piao.
Back to the law chambers where legal matters are discussed from a Christian perspective. We have been discussing some investment issues, specifically under SSNIT and our other pension schemes. And well, just before the break, we were looking at how the calculations are made in respect of which particular income and how this would be disbursed upon a person's retirement. So now the next thing we look at is the beneficiaries. You know, sometimes when people make their wills, they indicate under their wills who they intend to get what. And some may indicate, I want to be Ajwa to get 20% of my SSNIT or my pension contributions, and then Kwame to get the 80. And then, unfortunately for them, with SSNIT, they had indicated maybe at the time they were unmarried, so they had indicated maybe their parents as the beneficiaries. Now, this discrepancy, how do we handle it practically after a person passes and then beneficiaries now want to claim? Because now we have 4 people fighting over the person's.
Gloria, can I just add something
Sure.
quickly
Yes.
before she takes the beneficiary thing? Talking about investment, as Mr. Ewa did, okay? I mean, many might think that it's something so cumbersome, as in, where do I go to invest? You say investment and all that. Where do I go? But within the 3-tier pension scheme, you can invest even in the tier 3 if you are someone in the informal sector. Okay, if you are a formal sector worker, tier 1, tier 2 is mandatory, so you have to do it whether you like it or not.
But I can even
But
still
then
do the tier 3
you
as
can
well.
do the tier 3. It's optional for you. Likewise, if you are an informal sector person, you can also do tier 1, the SSNIT, scheme as an optional thing. You can do that one as well. So you can invest even under the tier 3. You can invest as much as you want to do. You can go into several schemes. You can go into 5, 10 schemes, and it's cool. Okay, so if you invest, a former sector worker, and you invest in all the 3 tiers, at the end of the day, you are getting 2 lump sums. You are getting, what do you call it? 2 monthly pensions. Okay, so if SSNIT gives you about 60%, as he said, it means that you are getting another one that can top it up. Let's say a 40% at the tier 3, that can top it up to make your 100%, so that your salary does not even change at the end of the day. Okay, so it's not looking out somewhere to look at investments, but within the tier 3, you can also invest as much as you want. Okay, thank you.
We are learning today.
Yes, so
Yes.
you
Yes,
can
so-
take your.
Just also to add, still on the investment thing, another key thing is that when it comes to financial planning, insurance is another avenue where people can also secure their future.
Okay.
Right, and luckily for us, now insurance is not only about vehicle insurance, as we know. Now there are a lot of products out there. Some insurance companies offer some retirement packages, planning, retirement investment instruments, some life policies here and there, and even farewell policies. These are all a form of what? Securing your future. I mean, what is retirement? You know that certainly you one day be weak, or you cease
stop
working formally,
Yes.
and so you want to plan for that that period. It's the same as taking this insurance policy. We all know, for something, for instance, farewell. Death is certain. Whether I am going to pass, or my mom, my dad, an auntie, or an uncle. So the wisest thing to do is to sow some little premiums to
But it's
pay.
as though it's like you are preparing to die.
No.
That's the smartest thing to do. So, like the Bible fashioned as like the ants. It said it sows or it prepares and stores food during the dry season, so that the rainy season they don't come out. That is, you are only saving towards the rainy season. So
I think it's just a fear of something that's
yes,
inevitable.
and there are a lot of products, like I said. We have the farewell packages, you have the life insurance, you have some retirement products, you have also what we call the annuity product, which functions like SSNIT is doing. And so these are all avenues where you can invest. Now, when you talk about investment, people are shying away because of the prevailing economic
exactly.
conditions.
We'll come
But
to that.
you are, of course,
It's temporal.
Okay, you are better off doing something than doing nothing. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah,
so let's touch on the
Yeah,
beneficiaries.
on that note of it seems as though you are
Yeah,
preparing
to
towards
die.
your death.
Yes.
Whether you like it or not, death is inevitable. So whenever beneficiary is mentioned in SSNIT, then it's linked to death.
Yes.
We will never talk about beneficiary records or information when you are retiring or nearing pension, because we know that along the line you may even die before your retirement is due, or the death can even occur immediately after retirement. We advise that you give us nominee information. So it's just like doing a will in a general sense. This part, I really like it because it's my baby. I happen to be a benefits officer some years back before I delved into corporate affairs. And so I say it's a lot of passion with the kind of things we see and experience when family come and they are so disappointed. Oh, so my name was not inclusive. Sometimes we wish we could have done something as staff, but the law instructs us to do it a certain way. So you cannot change the will, the SSNIT will of a contributor or a pensioner unless, as I mentioned last week, unless the contributor or pensioner left behind a minor child or minor children who are obviously below 18 years. So the law will automatically add that child or number of children to the person's nomination, yes. And the law says 60% goes to such a child or children. What that means is that if there were some names there, the child will be given 60% and the 40% will be reverted to and reshared, or if as it were, like if you like it, to redistribute it according to the original percentages of the people. So if you don't do this and somebody you nominated predeceases you, so I know you won't die, but assuming I nominated you and you predeceased me, you die before me, immediately I need to update my nominee information.
What happens if you don't?
If I don't update it and I die, I also die, and it is revealed that you passed on before me, we cannot pay contributions to ghosts. So the money will be reverted according to law to me, and I'm also not alive. So PNDC law 111 is used in redistributing your portion.
Just that portion.
Yeah, just your portion.
But it will go to you, your beneficiaries under law 111, not me.
No, not you. Under my benefit, yes, and yes, because I'm the holder of the contributions. So the PNDC law 111 states that it will be my parents, my spouses, my children, and my next of kin. And let me make this clear. Viewers, when we say next of kin in SSNIT, we don't mean somebody you have nominated elsewhere in some insurance or investments somewhere, saying that when I die, this person should take up all my entitlements. When we come to SSNIT, in SSNIT parlance, what next of kin means is the customary successor. Trini mbekania odi wadi. Inti uwe you know, ebusianfo shia no. Why not omuji no to say uwe no ni wadi? That person is what we term as next of kin. So that customarily the person is inheriting me, that person will benefit. So unfortunately, sometimes the family are disappointed because it is revealed through investigations that this person actually was probably even a loggerheads with the contributor. But unfortunately, he has been nominated as a next of kin, and so he has to take it. And people have a lot of issues. Again, beneficiary information will not be applicable to an ex-spouse. Ex-spouse. So if you know you married a man or woman and that person is no more your spouse, please expunge the person's records from your nominee information. It's important because if it's found out after your death that the person is an ex-spouse, that portion, yes.
What about concubines?
Concubine is not even allowed in the first place.
Why not?
Girlfriend, no. Boyfriend, no.
Baby mama.
Why?
Side chick.
Because under general laws, once the property is my personal property, then I have the testamentary freedom to give it as I desire.
Adra, you know, everything we do in the law also has some equivalence in this, the type of inheritance, types of systems we have in Ghana. So when you get into the law, there's a portion that allows every contributor or member to select for maternal or paternal. Even when you are a fresh person and you want to join the SSNIT scheme and you are being registered on the form, there's a place that asks you, what is your form of inheritance? Is it patrilineal or matrilineal? That will even inform you the kind of people who are eligible to be part of your nominees. So under maternal, obviously, that is the largest. There's a long list in the law that allows that you can even nominate sisters, sons, daughter, uncles, nephew. You know, when it comes to patrilineal, it's a bit restricted. Yeah, so we educate you, we take you through and let you understand. You know, some people, when they come, they don't want to Chini besi on person be yim. Inti say ni nua baby cry na otete na or say oyemeba.
Yes.
But when it comes to SSNIT, be bold and say it's my brother's daughter or my sister's son. And not just say we him. You need to let us know for tomorrow's sake, because it also aids in investigations when death occur. We would have to investigate to be sure we are paying the right people. So if you actually probably even adopted the person, let's say, and you just say daughter or son, and family wants to really frustrate the process, they will say, I don't know this person. So we have to go all around and say, oh, it's actually not a daughter, it is a nephew or niece, but they lived for a long time, and you know, so that is why. And so you now give us the burden as SSNIT officers, SSNIT investigators, to write reports and explain vividly that, oh, Adjoa Mensah is actually not a daughter to Mr. Mensah, but a niece who we adopted as a daughter or a son. Then, yes, and it delays the process. So some of these things, question is now check, but they keep the information from her. They conceal. Some of them even think that once I came to lodge the claim as a death reporter, automatically I have to enjoy. So then, when investigation starts going on and they realize, but I am the one fronting this thing and my name is not passed, then they start withdrawing. But unfortunately, as I said, we have seasoned investigators, so we'll find out the truth.
Okay, so you mentioned the patrilineal and matrilineal inheritance. There are some of us like me who don't belong. So let me explain. Sometimes you have your father is from the matrilineal culture, and so your father inherits maternally, and so automatically you are not part. Then you go to your mother and she inherits paternally, and so somehow
you are also not part.
Yes. So when you come, if I come to SSNIT and I'm feeling this form you are talking about, how do I go out?
But you know,
I have to choose.
Oh yes, but we advise. Okay. Obviously, if you are not married, you have siblings.
Yes.
If you are married, you have immediate nuclear family. So, for example, myself, before I got married, I had my 3 brothers on my. So I'm telling you today, I had my 3 brothers on my SSNIT nomination. But when I started giving birth and all that, I have removed my 3 brothers. But I won't say those who are there now, because it's a SSNIT nomination. It's my choice. I can decide at a point that I will change it. I may include maybe the baby last or something. Nobody knows. So yes, you can just do it as and when you want. And we want you to understand that this is not limited. So whenever you feel you want to update it, SSNIT, it's free. SSNIT will never restrict you and say, Baba, you came yesterday, why are you here today? You want to update your nominee report, so we allowed you to do so.
All right. You know, you mentioned that once there are beneficiaries, SSNIT will go by that instead of whatever is in the person's will. Can someone who is aggrieved take the matter to court? Can SSNIT change it based on a court order? So can someone go to court and apply that these were the people named under SSNIT to take this money, but I think I should be part, argue, get an order, and then come back to the SSNIT varies?
Yes, so the SSNIT court order applies to just a group of people. Not anybody at all can just go for a court order. As I mentioned, we go strictly towards the person has spelled out in the SSNIT will, unless, of course, the ones I mentioned and the law will redistribute. But if the person is a spouse or a child to the deceased person, spouse and child, that is what the law says. If you are not a child, or if you are not a spouse of that deceased person, you can't go to court for variation. And the variation here is actually not automatic. It even depends on the mood of the judge at the time. So if you tell your matter, if you tell your matter to the court and they feel that what you are saying, we think that it makes sense, you will be included. It doesn't mean that nomination changes automatically. You will just be included. Yes. So we are still begging SSNIT contributors and pensioners, please update your beneficiaries regularly, because you have your family members getting shocking news when they come and they realize that their names are not there.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, Ms. Rosina, sometimes when a person passes, a person may not know that I'm the beneficiary with SSNIT, so it will take a while before they figure it out. Now, is there any cap on maybe the number of years within which a person should apply for any pensions contribution under any of the pension contributions? So, for instance, I've been named as a beneficiary with SSNIT with, say, an uncle. The uncle passes. Maybe I didn't know that I was named, and so I don't get any notification, say, from the family here. Maybe I'm moving outside of the country. It's taken 14 years. I now know that my uncle named me, and so I need to go for about 50% of his contribution. Can I do that? Or it's too late?
I think SSNIT, you should be able to answer this, because for this, let me say that for an issue like this, if nobody comes to SSNIT, is a matter of buyer beware, isn't it?
Yes.
So if nobody comes to apply for, benefits, I mean, nobody touches it. Okay, so if the person is out and comes back after 14 years, you can still come and then claim.
So there's no period of limitation?
No period of limitation at all. But my dear can add something.
Yeah, that's what Auntie Rosina has said. And we want to also establish this, that the fact that your name is in a certain will elsewhere is not automatic that your name will be in the person's SSNIT will. It can obviously change. Yes.
All right, so we have a question here that I would like to read out for us all. It says, good evening, thank you for this program, though I joined late. My dad died 3 years ago at the age of 76. While processing his documents for the 4 years claim, we were told he didn't enter his benefit ratio to his 4 children. We, the children, want it shared equally, but we are told unless the court decision. Please, is there anything we can do without it going to court for long procedures, since we, the 4 children, have agreed?
First of all, did she say 76 years old?
Yes, the person died at the age of 76.
Wow.
So let me mention this, that interestingly, you would have found a different age in the SSNIT records. That probably was even 63. I'm not saying that is the case, but people have different dates of birth at different places. But for SSNIT, if he was indeed 76, then it means that there was nothing for even the children to claim. Because when you go on retirement at age 60, under the National Pensions Act 76, it says that your annuity period, you'll be paid up till you die, but you'll be given, your money will be disbursed up to a period of 15 years, which will end at 75. By that time, you would have finished, should I say, enjoying your own pensions, and then any other money is given to you after your 75th birthday is the insurance money that everybody has contributed into. So if the death occurred before 75, you will just have to take the difference. For example, if the dad died at 68, there's an unexpired pension of 7 years, which would have used his beneficiary information to disburse. But if it was 76, there's nothing for the family.
So if whoever is naming us as beneficiaries lives on to like 80, then we should forget.
No, just forget.
Nothing.
Okay.
Because this question is coming now, I am assuming that the dad might have retired under PNC law
247,
which at that time it is 12 years.
12 years and not 15 years.
So he has already even crossed
the long ago.
All right, so there's another question. It says, God bless you for the good work you are doing. She's Akosia from Winneba. She has 2 questions. The first is, if I pass on, she says, God forbid. If I pass on whilst my children are minors, at which age will they be qualified to claim their benefits? And what should I do? I don't want their father to be part of the process of them claiming their benefits.
That's interesting.
So her children are minors.
Okay.
If she passes now, and her children are the named beneficiaries, if she passes now, our age, what do the children do because they are minors? And she doesn't want the father of the children to.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, but because they are minors, the law will not even give them the opportunity to even claim on their own behalf. It says that a guardian or caretaker of the minors.
If it's their father.
Per the investigations, it could not be their father anyway. But anyone who is taking care of the kids, not just taking care, but investigations has to prove whose custody they are in, even before the death of the person, God forbid, as she said, whoever that was seen as responsible. Sometimes you have to liaise with the family as well. But if you don't take care and you don't do a thorough investigations, you'll be biased. Because people have had to just come and present themselves because they have had this education that as long as I go and present myself as a guardian, I'll be the one to have this money for this minor. So unfortunately, my Winneba lady, someone has to stand in for these minors, whether you like it or not.
As a trustee,
Yes.
or the law will say the next friend, yes?
The next friend. Okay. She has a second question, which I think we've answered. She says, can I include my SSNIT benefits in my will? I think we have indicated that even if you include it in your will, if there are named beneficiaries with SSNIT, which are different from the names you have included in your will, then the named beneficiaries at SSNIT are the ones who are going to benefit and not those who have been named in your will. Then the last is she wants to know how she can access a statement of account in relation to the pension. So can she at this point be checking up and knowing
yes. I even mentioned last week that we are now in a digital world. So we've had less people walking into our offices to personally print hard copies of their statements.
Okay.
So which is why we are saying that everyone should ensure that they update their records in our system. Not only the nominee records, but their telephone, mobile addresses, residential, postal, and everything. So if you have your email updated with us, for instance, you can easily go onto our website, www.snit.org.gh. It's just ask you of your password because we know you have an updated information. It takes you through the process, you follow the prompts, and you have a soft copy viewing your own statements without going to print a hard copy and joining a long queue just to see how you are faring when it comes to SSNIT. So
Andrea, let me add on that for the second and third tiers, okay, they are mandated to also give you periodic statements.
Yeah.
So for instance, every quarter they're supposed to send you a statement. So for those in the informal sector, sometimes they put it on their text message, and that's everywhere you want to. Then you can also go or find out or check on your statement anytime, any day with the private managers as well.
So before I think our time is almost up, but you see, initially there was this lump sum. We used to get lump sum. We heard of it, but I think now it's no longer there. We used to get it from SSNIT, but we no longer get that. No. And so please, can you throw more light on?
Yes. So prior to the promulgation of the new law, that's the Act 766, SSNIT was operating with the PNDC Law 247, and SSNIT was taking both first and second tiers at a rate of 17.5. Okay. Now, when the new law was passed and operationalized in 2010, it says that SSNIT should just manage 13.5, which is the first tier. So the second tier was now Auntie Rosina's baby, and it's still her baby. So what that means is that anybody who contributed 17.5 before 2010, before 1st January 2010, you obviously have a 4% somewhere hanging because you were under the old law. That's what is termed as the past credits. So if you get your SSNIT statements right now, below, you see a computation, just a summary of it, giving you the best 3 years average salary under your statements and giving you your past credits computation there. What that means is that when you go on retirement, that 4% that is calculated with interest, and you are taking that as a lump sum from SSNIT, even though you have the lump sum proper to take from second tier, that monies are there and they need to be refunded to you. So that's where they are.
That's
okay. So the second tier gives you your lump sum. It does not reside with SSNIT any longer under the new law, which is the Act 766. So you take it with the private trustee. We say they are privately managed. So the trustee under the second tier, trustee of your own choice, okay, you take it from them. Then again, those under the 30 year, they can also take from the trustee, whether you are an informal person or a formal person.
All right, okay. So we have another question. The person is asking, so how do I update my SSNIT nominees or next of kin or beneficiaries? Because the person says they can't, it looks like they can't access it online.
Yes.
And so they have to walk into the SSNIT.
Yes, I mentioned this last week. This is a will, so we are careful with this age of people hacking into systems and all that. We are careful that even though our new portal is giving access that you can go in there and view your nominees if you are not sure. You can just view and then continue with the updates in our office, because if we give the room for people to do updates on their sites or on the system, you know what that means. If it's a will, then it has to be treated with utmost care and caution. So unfortunately, he or she has to work into our office, do the updates, and then thumbprints as well.
Okay.
Same way you can update under the second and third tiers with the private managers.
Okay. I think we had a very insightful discussion this evening.
Indeed.
And so I'd like us to just give like our closing remarks in terms of what we have discussed this evening. So
all right,
you can start.
What I would like to say is that we've understood that retirement is a lifestyle. So just see yourself and ask yourself, how do I want my old age to be, and plan towards that. Make sure that you are putting things in place towards that lifestyle that you want to see when you are old. And I said this, and we continue to say that the SSNIT scheme is also there for every worker, so it includes self-employed persons. The fund is still safe, irrespective of the economic crisis that we are in. And our pensioners will continue to pay you every third Thursday of the month. Thank you.
Thank you, Jemima. It's Mr. Ewa.
All right, so I also like to say that, yes, there is SSNIT, you may be contributing towards SSNIT, but it is important that you look for other avenues where you can enhance your retirement benefits. And so you wouldn't only focus on SSNIT. And again, it is important that you also lower your expectations. When I get the opportunity to talk to people, I always say that plan as though SSNIT doesn't exist during your retirement. And then again, be particular and interested in your SSNIT contribution as though that is the only means of survival when you go on retirement. By so doing, you end up being a happy person, because retirement is all about liquidity. I mean, you may be weak, you may not be able to do the things you used to do, but if you have money, you can outsource those services. And if you don't have the money, that is when frustration sets in. Right? So let's take our retirement destiny into our own hands.
Thank you.
So as they have both said, it looks as if it's for the formal sector workers. And can you imagine yourself not having any pension at all? Not to think of that small one that people are complaining that it's not enough, but you don't have at all. And saying this, I'm talking to those in the informal sector. Okay, at the third tier, I mean, provision is made for you to also contribute, so that tomorrow you can also have something to say like we are doing now, that even if it's not enough, at least you have something to take care of yourself. I mean, it's better than you not having anything at all. Say, me de be betri mono. Yen krofwa yan kasiye ye juma. Sa 3-tier pension and our pension fufuro ye abano. Ewa homa ye nyina. Uye juma busumi anu. Wankasa na uye we juma o. Wo biya wutiminya pension a ye di hu nkomo yi. Wonso wutiminya bi. Na senya amanfo kra enye bi. Wo mo kase enoso se wonso so enka wonye bi kura nso obeye ne den enti e wose nyina ye boa ye ho ketu abia nso se ebeye den se obekọ ahogie mu waye adwuma da aso sikem na ebedu baabi na sike bi amfa wonsem ebeye ya bebre enti menua wo awu ohwe me enei me se obia ewe kwanya se daachi okọ ahogie mu a onye bibi e de hwe ne ho a eye pension enti won so fa ho agim na daakye wankɔ fie ankɔtena hɔ kwa na wobɛtumi ayɛ wei a wotumi bisa yɛmu biara na MPRA ebɛtumi ama ɛho nsɛm bebree MPRA wotumi frɛ yɛn ɛwɔ number a ɛtoa ɛmɛbobo so yi 0302 968692 mesɛsi so biom 0302 a yɛ code no afei 968692 wofrɛ yɛn a asɛm biara a wopɛ sɛ wote ɛfa pension ho no yɛbɛboa wo ama wɔn nsa aka na mehyira wo
nti enyume yaka nsɛm pii yɛde bɛweyɛ no yaka sɛ o yɛ adwuma sesi a either sɛ wɔ formal sector kyɛ sɛ bosome biara o yɛ adwuma etua oka ana sɛ wo tɔn adeɛ o wɔ nsa no adwuma kaka onya sika no asɛn wen mmara ne sɛ obetumi ayɛ nhyehyɛeɛ bosome ewie yɛ biara no odi bi bɛto hɔ under SSNIT ne tier 2 na tier 3 nso wɔ hɔ but aside nneɛma mmiɛnsa wei no nso no yaka sɛ yɛn nhyehyɛeɛ foforɔ a ɛbɛboa wo sɛnea wokɔ ahomegye mu a wobɛfɔle on nneɛma wei nyinaa sika a ɛbɛfi 3 sources any alternate investment sources nyinaa na wetumi ayuso in your retirement yasan so aka sɛ beneficiaries sɛ wode obi din ɛhyɛ hɔ sɛ nipa yi ɛna ne nsa aka wobɛtumi akɔsesa at any time ɛwɔ SSNIT ana wote etu nipa de din bɛhyɛ hɔ no tumi sesa at any time but beyond that no sɛ wowɔ abofra bi a wanfa ne din anhyɛ so a no ndi 18 a abofra tumi kɔ ɛma yɛsesa ɛde ne din ka ho sɛ waware na wone nipa ne gyaa ɛwɔ sɛ wokɔ na wokɔ sesa ɛsan sɛ nipa no ne nsa nka sɛ sika no nti enyume we have learnt a lot and I hope we have been able to exhaust all the questions that came in. Thank you for joining us and we see you same time next week.